Charles Martel was born in 686, and his father was a Frankish statesman, and his mother was a woman named Alpeda, who happened to also be a noblewoman. Charles's mother, Alpeda, was married to his father, Pepin, but that was actually a polygamous relationship. Pepin was married to another woman before that, and early history says that Charles, due to that polygamous relationship, was actually illegitimate, but that's likely due to his father's first wife wanting her own son to rise to Pepin's power. When Pepin died, he had designated his 8-year-old grandson, Theodold, to be the heir to his throne. Most of the nobles opposed that, though, due to his young age. And so in order to make sure that Charles didn't take advantage of this unrest in the area, Plectrude, Charles's sort of stepmother, had him thrown in prison so that he couldn't intervene in all of this unrest.
Charles Martel throughout history was known as the Hammer. This is for two reasons. For one, his last name Martel is very similar to the word Martua, which directly means hammer. Not only that, but it's also known throughout history that no matter what battle it was, on the field, Charles Martel was a monster. He was super aggressive and super wise, giving him the nickname the Hammer.
So after Charles's father left the picture, Charles was able to successfully claim power as the successor to his father. And then after that, he began to continue his father's work for the centralization of the government of Francia. Shortly after the work of centralizing the government of Francia, Charles began a military campaign that would establish the Franks as the undisputed masters of Gaul.
Charles Martel was a military leader in the 8th century, and he was known most famously for fighting in the Battle of Tours, which this was against the Muslim army, in which he would fight against Adhar-Haram, the main power source at that time.
As Jacob stated earlier, Charles Martel did not gain his army on a silver platter. Rather, as he secured borders across France, farmers and lower-class citizens joined his cause.
The reason this battle was such a big deal for Charles Martel was not only was it the largest battle that he went to, speaking of the Battle of the Tours, but it was also a battle that was hopelessly stacked against him. Adhar-Haram's army had around 60 to 80,000 men, while Charles Martel's army only had around 30,000 people. And again, these weren't even military men, these were farmers and just peasants around in the area.
The Battle of Tours itself, the location was not necessarily known, but the point is that Charles Martel, leading the Franks, had won against the Islamic army, led by Adhar-Haram. As the Muslim army had retreated, Adhar-Haram was killed in this retreat, and thus ending the battle.
The Battle of Tours was the changing point in world history, because if Adhar-Haram had won that battle, the entire Western Europe would have been lost.
It's been deemed by countless historians that if the Battle of Tours was won by the Muslims, that Western Europe would have changed as we know it. It would have changed the way we view history, and it also would have choked out Christianity in that area.
After the battle and following years, Charles Martel closely aligned himself with Boniface. Boniface is also known as the Apostle of Germany. Charles Martel was also the first in his attempt of reconciliation between the Franks and the papacy.
Charles Martel had two sons. He had a son named Pepin, which is also worth noting that though Charles himself was the illegitimate son of his father Pepin, they must have still had somewhat of a good relationship for him to have named his own son Pepin. He also had another son named Carloman. Pepin the Short was his nickname. Pepin was also the first king of the Franks after his father, and he was king of the Carlomannes as well. Pepin the Short had a son named Charlemagne. Charlemagne would later make a tremendous impact on church history. This was the grandson of Charles Martel. Charlemagne became the first empire of what would be called the Holy Roman Empire. He was also known as King Charles the Great.